Dear students, this is lecture 17 in supply chain management. Let us first discuss the questions of the last lecture. The first question is: companies prefer to locate facilities in politically stable countries where the rules of dash and dash are well defined. The answer is commerce and ownership. Second question: local presence of facility is must for short dash. The answer is response time. When you want to provide very short response time, then you should establish the facilities in local places so that the facility is very near to the customers. Question number 3: dash requirements include the availability of skilled workforce turnover, and the community receptivity to business and industry. So we have discussed two kinds of requirements: hard infrastructure requirements and soft infrastructure requirements. Here the answer is soft infrastructure requirements. Now we are moving to third unit. The topic of this lecture is the role of transportation in a supply chain. First we see what do you mean by transportation. As you all know, transportation means movement of product from one location to another location, and it makes the way for the products from the beginning of a supply chain to the customer. Transportation, it is an important driver in supply chain management because products are rarely produced and consumed in the same location. The meaning is, a customer wants to buy a product. Mostly the product may not be manufactured in the same place where he lives. So that is a situation in any product. For example, a customer wants to purchase a particular brand of soap. That particular brand of soap may be manufactured in some part of the country. So the transportation is the important driver in supply chain, which makes the products available in all the locations so that customers will be able to purchase the same. So the transportation is a significant component of the cost incurred by most supply chains. So due to this reason, we should consider the transportation cost as the important component in case of supply chain management. Having discussed the importance of transportation cost, any supply chain success is closely linked to the appropriate use of the transportation in supply chain management. Now we are going to discuss two case studies for understanding significance of the transport cost. The first one is IKEA, the Scandinavian home furnishings retailer. Scandinavian means a group of Northern Europe countries: Denmark, Norway, and Sweden. These countries are collectively called as Scandinavian, has built a global network with about 270 stores in 26 countries, primarily on the basis of effective transportation. So, this IKEA is a manufacturing company which provides home furnishings, and today the company has got more than 12,000 products, and the number of stores increased to 424 stores in 52 countries. IKEA sales for the year ending in August 2009, it was 21.5 billion euros. Its main strategy is to provide good quality products at low prices. So we have to note down the key point: the good quality products at low prices. Today, It is the world biggest furniture group, and it has opened a showroom in India in Hyderabad city, and it recorded 400 crore sales in the year 2019. Now we'll see how IKEA has reached the position that is world's biggest furniture group. Its goal is to cut the prices by 2 to 3% each year. That means every year it is not increasing the price, it wants to reduce the price. As a result, IKEA works hard to find most inexpensive global source for each of its products. So we have discussed one of the factor called sourcing. That is where you get raw material or products. So IKEA is working hard to find the place where it can get the furniture products at the lowest cost in the all over the world. The modular design of its furniture allows IKEA to transport its goods worldwide much more cost effectively than a traditional furniture manufacturer. In case of traditional furniture manufacturer, if you take a table or chair, it will be given as a single product. But in case of modular design, the product will be given as several modules of the single product or several parts of the single product, and they can be reassembled in the customer's place. Due to this, the advantage is the packing the product will be very easier, and so the transportation will also become very easier one at a lesser cost. The large size of IKEA stores and shipments allows inexpensive transportation of home furnishings all the way to the retail store. The IKEA stores will be of in very big size in all the places where it has got stores. So due to that reason, the transportation cost will be very less, because as we already discussed the concept called economies of scale. Whatever you do in bulk, certainly the cost will be reduced. So as the size of the storeroom is very big, so it can transport the products as a one time effort. So effective sourcing and inexpensive transportation, these two aspects, that is effective sourcing and inexpensive transportation. So these two factors allow IKEA to provide high quality furniture at low prices globally. The second case study is 7-Eleven Japan. It is a supply chain store which has got more than 20,000 stores in Japan. 7-Eleven Japan is a firm. It sells all kinds of products, cosmetics, groceries, etc. And it uses the transportation to achieve its strategic goals. The company has a goal of carrying products in its stores to match the needs of customers as they vary by geographic location or time of day. That is, the demand from the customers, it is not same in all locations. It varies location to location, and even in the same location also the customers demand for the products may vary based on the time of the day or even particular uh, period of the year, like that. To achieve this goal, 7-Eleven Japan uses a responsive transportation system that replenishes its stores several times a day so that the products available match customers' needs. So even in a day, the 7-Eleven has got a responsive transportation system which replenishes its stores based on the demand from the customers. So products from different suppliers are aggregated on trucks according to the required demand to help achieve frequent deliveries at a reasonable cost. So the 7-Eleven Japan has got a very good information system so that it can understand the demand at any point of time in each location. Accordingly, it operates a responsive transportation system to supply the products frequently to the stores. 7-Eleven Japan uses a responsive transportation system along with the aggregation to decrease its transportation and receiving cost while ensuring that product availability closely matches customer demand. That is, it uses the responsive transportation system and also aggregation. That means collecting the demand from various locations, and accordingly we can summarize how we can transport the products to various places in a very less transportation cost and a receiving cost. At the same time, we are ensuring the availability of the products which almost matches the customer demand. So what are the two key factors in 7-Eleven Japan supply chain system? The answer is responsive transportation system and aggregation. These two key points, elements which makes the company to provide the products at a low cost and also matching the customer demand. Supply chains also use responsive transportation to centralize inventories and operate with fewer facilities. That means a supply chain system with the good information system and responsive transportation will make the company to centralize their inventories and they can operate the system with a very few facilities. For example, Amazon relies on package carriers and the postal system to deliver customer orders from centralized warehouses. Amazon operates the concept of centralized inventories, but not only in a single place, it may have at least or 4 or 5 places in a country. For example, in India, it may have in Delhi, Bangalore, Chennai, like that. And from these warehouses, it delivers the customer orders through package carriers. Transportation has allowed Netflix to operate a movie rental business without any stores. So initially, Netflix started business as a firm to provide a movie at a rent. So the company used responsive transportation provided by the postal system along with suitably located warehouse to allow its customers to receive and return movies they want to watch. So initially the Netflix started like a movie rental business and it used the responsive transportation system to deliver the products and also to get back the movies after customers watch that particular film. But now due to the advantage of internet, Netflix is delivering its products like movies or any digital content through internet without any need for physical movement of products from one place to another place. If you see the advantage of centralized inventory with fewer facilities, the first advantage is we can save the cost for establishing facilities in several locations. That is facilities cost. So that is the prime factor in the cost aspect of supply chain system. So we can save cost on facilities cost. So we are establishing only very few facilities. And centralized inventory allows the supply chain system to effectively manage the product's availability and also to satisfy the customer very easily, because due to the responsive transportation system at a lower cost. As we go for centralized inventory with very few facilities, the operations cost, that means cost incurred for operations in various locations, that is also saved to certain extent. The only disadvantage of this method is delivery time or response time may be long, but that can be reduced by using good information support, that is through computers and software facilities, and better transportation system. Now we see the basics of transportation system. The shipper is the party that records the movement of the product between 2 points in the supply chain. So we use the term shipper. So who is the shipper? Actually, the party that records the movement of the product between 2 points in the supply chain. The carrier is a party that moves or transports the product. So shipper is the one who want to move the product from one place to another place. For example, you take Amazon wants to move the product from Bangalore to Tanjore. Then what is a carrier? Carrier is a party that moves or transport the product. Carrier is the one who actually moves the product from one place to another place, in this case from Bangalore to Tanjore. So besides the shipper and the carrier, two other parties have a significant impact on transportation. So apart from these two, the other two players, one is the owners and operators of transportation infrastructure such as roads, ports, canals, and airports. So the one party is the owner and operators of transportation infrastructure. For example, roads, ports, airports. But mostly it will be operated by the government in most of the countries. Second one, the bodies that set transportation policy worldwide. That is the bodies or forum which frames the transportation policy. So actions by all these four parties influence the effectiveness of transportation. So if you want to have the effective transportation, so we should understand and analyze the facts of all these four parties, that is shipper, carrier, and owners and operators of transportation infrastructure, and bodies which sets the transportation policy. So to understand transportation in a supply chain, it is important to consider the perspectives of all these four parties. A carrier makes investment decisions regarding the transportation equipment, locomotives, trucks, airplanes, etc., and in some cases infrastructure, rail, and then makes operating decisions to try to maximize the return from these assets. So for example, oil companies like Indian Oil Company, Bharat Petroleum, and Hindustan Petroleum, these companies uses tankers and lorries to deliver fuel like diesel, petrol, and gases to different facilities in various locations. If you see the owners of these lorries or tankers, most of the owners are from the area Namakkal, it is very near to Salem. So, what is the carrier aspect here? The carrier makes investment on these equipments like lorries and trucks. And what is their aim? They want to maximize their profit by operating these transportation equipment, lorries and tankers, on rental basis to oil companies. That is why many a times we have heard that the lorry owners went for strike to increase their rent from the oil companies so that they can maximize their return on investment on these assets like lorries and trucks. So a carrier want to maximize their profit, but in contrast, a shipper who uses the carrier to transport their products, they want to minimize the total cost. That is, shipper wants to minimize the total cost, which includes transportation, inventory, information, sourcing, and a facility. At the same time, to provide appropriate level of responsiveness to the customer. So, carrier wants to maximize their profit. A shipper wants to use better transportation system so that to minimize the total cost. By understanding the contradictory perspectives of carrier and shipper, the company should take a balancing decision which satisfies both to certain extent. The effectiveness of carriers is influenced by infrastructure such as ports, roads, waterways, and airports. Most transportation infrastructure throughout the world is owned and managed as a public good. So, the infrastructure like roads, waterways, and airports, ports are totally owned and managed by government. So, a carrier should consider the aspects of this infrastructure and the policies which are laid by the government. So the transportation policy sets direction for the amount of national resources that go into improving transportation infrastructure. So the policies are decided by the government. So the transportation policy also aims to prevent abuse of monopoly power, promote fair competition, and balance environmental, energy, and social concerns in transportation. So here we have discussed two aspects. One is the infrastructure that is provided by the government, and the policy that is also decided by the government. For example, if you take the tolls available in highways and charges collected by the tolls, because these charges are paid by the carrier when they move the product from one place to another place. So it is also included in the cost of transportation, and various policies involved in the transportation to avoid the monopoly in that particular field are to implement fair competition and to balance environmental, energy, and social concerns. So all these things have to be considered in the transportation aspect. Students, answer for these questions.